So it was 1980, Russian men. And Yud Tammuz was like this year, I believe, like already the summer started. And 770 was pretty empty. I guess there were Bachar that we went to medical shlichus, the Bachar went to camp, and counselors. I don't know why I was in 770, but I was there. And daven with the Rebbe, mincha, chlal. If one had a chance to daven with the Rebbe, there were chassidim that were makbid, that were careful and tried to daven every tefillah with the Rebbe as many as they could. And then there were chassidim, and real chassidim, and serious chassidim, and good chassidim. They weren't so makbid. I could give you names, but I'd rather not give you names. You use your imagination or ask your parents or grandparents. You had different types of chassidim. Parenthetically, the whole idea of chassidus and chassidim from the Baal Shem Tov, Baal Shem Tov, is individuality. A cookie-cut form of a chassid is really not a chassid, it's a snagid, it's a litfan. A chassid has yichudiyut, he has individuality, he has uniqueness. So this idea of, emulating, nachmachen, copying, by chassidim, for doiras, this wasn't our genre. Those that know what the word genre means. It wasn't our style. It wasn't the mahalach. But anyway, so the fact that one chassid was makbid to daven with the Rebbe every tefillah, and another chassid wasn't makbid to chap the mincha, chap the ma'ariv, he wasn't a bad chassid. In my days, and probably Rabbi Schuster's days, he's older than me, we didn't. I don't think we looked a bad eye. Oh, this is a chassid. He learned to see this and daven bariches and everything, and instead of, he doesn't come to mincha with the Rebbe, he doesn't come to ma'ariv. That wasn't the way it was looked at. Like a not by me and my chavedas. That's all I can tell you. Anyway, so the Rebbe, but I happened to try to be at the tefillas with the Rebbe, and that was also a challenge. You do a chassid would not try to show, as Chassidim say, weiß nicht dein chasische Ponem zum Rebbe. Don't show your piggish face to the Rebbe. You're like a pig. Like you're a behemoth. And you're going and you guckst da rein, Rebbe Zeugen, and he looks at you. But you're the mamish. There was that attitude too, and I remember clearly hiding before Chevra that were in front of me, so that Rebbe shouldn't see my face. And as I have to go, Kevin Akutz, you played that game, and you looked at the right and the left. Anyway, not going to, you have your Mashpia, your Yeshivas, your Mashpia, and Holland, they teach you how they want you to be. But I'm telling you the way it was during my time. Al-Kaponim, it was Tafshin Mem, 1980, Yud Tammuz. After Mincha, I came downstairs. Mincha was upstairs in the klein nazal, upstairs in the small shul. And it's hard to believe I'm going to tell you now, but this is the way it was. The downstairs was dark. All the lights were off. It's Yud Tammuz. At night there was going to be a farbrengen. They have a farbrengen between Yud and Gimel Tammuz. And downstairs, because it was summer, it was the middle of the week. People are working during the day. By night, they came to farbrengen like this. Button here, by farbrengen, come by night, at night. And I saw one Yid sitting at the table behind the bima. My memories are from 770 those days. I don't know how, it was the same table. It was just to remember, Malo Sholem used to come Friday. come an hour or two before this man. I saw this many times. I was there early too. And he would come with two big talus bags and full of svarim. Those are Baalei Gezen. You remember? And he would put them down on that table behind the bima, and over there he would sit and learn. I think, and then later maybe he moved to the front when he became a Rav. I saw that. So that table is the table I'm talking about, behind the bima. Anyway, and I saw one Yid, and all of 770, big base medrash, big 770, one Yid. I go over to the Yid because this intrigued me. The place is dark, no one's around, we daven mincha, it's now 3:30 in the afternoon, mincha was 3:15, 3:30 we finished. There's nothing, and people go home or whatever, I don't even know if there was Seder then, I don't remember. I don't think so. Anyway, so I see a Yid, I never saw him before, and I noticed that he was blind on one eye. I don't remember if he had a patch on the eye or he didn't, but he was blind on one eye. And I give him Shalom Aleichem. Never saw this Yid. An ältere Chassid, a weiße Bord. I think he wore a hat, not a casquette. And it was clear when I said Shalom Aleichem that he was a Russian Yid, a Yid from Russia. So I tell him my name, and he says, I ask him who he is. He says his name is Reb Nochem Shkolnik. Nochem Shkolnik. I say, wer sind die Reb Nochem Shkolnik? Wo, from was, where, what? Start talking, schmoozing a bissel. And he kept me there for 3 solid hours. From 3:30 to 6:30, I did not leave the bench, sitting and listening to him like this, glued to what he had to say. I'm not going to tell you everything he said, not that I remember everything, but 2 things. One thing he told me is that he was a Chassid, a Lubavitcher Chassid in Rusland. He learned, I think, in the Machteres, the underground Chabad Yeshivas. This Tammuz is the day we celebrate the Rebbe's release, which means the release of all the Yidden that were in the Machteres, in the underground, and what they did, and they gave their life, nefesh, and we're sitting today on Sir Abosar, Baruch Hashem, all over. It's b'schus what the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Chasidism did. Okay? Anyway, so good. And then he tells me, he says, I want to tell you something. All in Yiddish. He says, I had yeshivas with the Rebbe, and I asked the Rebbe a question. What was my question? He said, Rebbe, that's the way the Russian Chassidim spoke. Rebbe, he says, you wrote to me, whatever, titles, we call in English accolades, compliments. He said, Rebbe, what are you writing about me such titles? Ich feel es nicht. I don't feel it. Like, come on, get over it, Rebbe. The Russian Chassidim, the old Russian Chassidim, these type of things, titles and accolades, rabbi and Rebbetzin, and things didn't go by them. This was nonsense by them, by Lubavitcher Chassidim. In fact, I'll tell you a secret. It's not a secret, but probably many of you don't know. Do you know how the Rebbe's father was called by people in the shul and people by Chassidim? At the time, it was called Levik the Rov. The Rebbe's father is like a genius, a makubal, a B'don Shoktoshim, Levik the Rov. That's the way they spoke in Ruslan. versteht sich, the Rebbe will change that, say Rebbe and all that. But, by the way, it doesn't mean that Rebbe changed it. It doesn't mean that the Inyan doesn't have an Inyan Amiti. It means for our generation, Dalfin Emerufan Rebbe. Today you have to call him Rebbe, Rabbi, basically. But in concept, in Teichen, in idea, you don't need that. You don't need to build the ego, Rabbi. Right? You can be Rebbe Yitzchak, the Rebbe's father, who's the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Yitzchak, the Goy Noilam, the Tzaddik, and everything else. And he's leaving the roof. There's a video, you should see it. I put it online. When my wife Zayda, Reb Zalman Serebransky, Reb Mendel knew him very well from Australia, days in Australia, Reb Zalman came to my house several times in California. At the time we were living there, and so my younger brother Fibers was there, so I took my camcorder, the video machine. In those days, the video machine was this big. It wasn't like this. It was a big bomb, a big bunker, you know. It's the same video machine I videoed the Mendel Futterfass, which is also online. If you haven't seen that, you should see it for yourself. And that Mendel told me, until now, he knew there was only one Ayah Roya Voya Shemas. Now he sees there's another one. So I did the same thing with Reb Zalman, you know. Sometimes you have to have chutzpah. You don't have chutzpah, we wouldn't have those videos today. We wouldn't see them, we wouldn't hear what they have to say. Anyway, so Reb Zalman talks about being in the Rebbe's father's house in Yakinislav in the 1920s, 21, 22, those years. He was there, I think he was raising money for the yeshivas, the machteres. And Reb Levi gave him a platform to raise funds for the yeshiva. And so on this tape, he says to my brother, he's telling about Reb Levi, he says, you have to see it, because I won't do any justice telling it to you. You have to hear it, his Yiddish, his Russian Yiddish, and you see the person, if you know who this person was, or you want to find out who he is, he says, Azad Goyin. Und mit dem Azay gehandelt, Azay, Pashtus. You're dealing with a Goyin, and they deal, Rabbi Avtz is a Goyin, and I'm sure some of you don't appreciate it. Another Rosh Yeshiva, okay. I'm just saying, a Mashpia, Rosh Yeshiva, I'm serious. Saying you have people that have good learning, and Chasidism, anyway, leave that for another time. But, so, this Reb Nochem Shkolnik, to go back to the story to finish it finally, so you don't get bored out of your head. This Reb Nochem was such a chassid. So he says to the Rebbe, was schreibt mir Harav a chassid, a chassid, because whatever the titles the Rebbe wrote to him, he said the words to Rebbe, ich feel es nicht. I don't feel it. So in other words, Rebbe, I'm paraphrasing, kind of, come on, be true. Be honest. What are you hacking? What are you trying to come for me? What are you trying to make me feel good? Say the truth. I'm a nobody. I'm Kamkam, a chassid. I came from Russia. I'm having yeshivas, help me, elevate me. So the Rebbe said to him, and this is the punchline. From every Maisa, there needs to be a punchline. If you don't walk away with a punchline, you didn't get the Maisa. What's the punchline? The punchline is, the Rebbe said to him, Filin is nit kein mus. Those are the Rebbe's holy words. Feeling is not an absolute necessary requirement. In Yiddish, feeling is nit kein mus. That was Yudbich Tammuz 44 years ago, sitting in 770 in the afternoon with this husband. Then he went on to start to ask me if I learned Tanya. I said, yeah, I learned Tanya. Rabbi Yoel taught us Tanya, Rabbi Yoel Kahn, Mashpia. Melech taught us Tanya, and we were learning Tanya, we were trying to understand Tanya. And Rabbi Yoel and Rabbi Melech were makabel from Mashpia, who learned Tanya by the Mashpia, Rabbi Lubavitcher. So let's say you've heard the name of Rabbi Chaim Kesselman, Rabbi Chaim, Rabbi Nissen. Rabbi Nissen didn't learn by Groinem, but he learned by Groinem, and Rabbi Shoel Brook. These people and others learned by Groinem Tanya. Who did Groinem learn by? Do you know? Anyone know who was Groinem? By who did Groinem learn Tanya? By Avrem Kijevin. What was Avrem Kijevin's last name? Anyone know? Landau. Okay. By who did Rabbi Avrem Kijevin learn Tanya? No? So the tradition, the Messiah and Tanya, this is very important. I'll tell you why, not just to test you if you know that. Why is this important? Today, there's all kinds of Tanya teachers, and there's all kinds of Tanya. And Medaf learn Tanya, and everyone, there's all the Litzvah should learn Tanya, and the Belzers all teaching Tanya, and the Satmars all teaching Tanya. But Lubavitch, Chabad, has the Messiah and Tanya. This is the Messiah. There were Chassidim, great Chassidim. I'll even tell you a name because it's not. Reb Goldschmidt. Reb Goldschmidt, I believe he learned to Lubavitch. Yeah, but I think he learned to Lubavitch. No? He was in the Cheder with the Rebbe. Reb Nochem, if you look into his Shiurim on Tanya, has a very different, at least the first 12 prokim, has a very different mahalach. Ad kedei kach, Reb Leibel Opheim, Mashpia in our shul, he taught Tanya in Beis Rivkin in Crown Heights for years. Leibel once told me I can come out of my bed in my pajamas. I don't think he wears pajamas, but if I come out of my bed in pajamas, and roll into Beis Rivka and teach Tanya, and he was teaching Shari Yichud Ramunah. But he was teaching it for years, that he knew it clearly, he knew what to say to them, B'chuli. And then he told me his daughter came home, and I had the same experience with my daughter. Came home, and there's a teacher, Gulkowski, Moshe Meir Gulkowski's wife. She is a Guppin? No, not a Guppin, I forget. But she's, a Behasty? A Perman, yeah, thank you, a Perman. So she was a very good Talmida of this Reb Nochem Goldschmidt, and she knew his mahalach and Tanya, and she taught the girls his mahalach, and she gave them tests. So Label told me when his daughter came home, he couldn't help them with the homework. Because it wasn't what we got from Rabbi Yoel, the mahalach which he got from Shoel Brook, which he got from Groinem. So I don't know how. Das geht ich weiß nicht the sense for them. In other words, I think he learned by Groinem, but Reb Nochem, it looks like took it into a way we sehr gut verstanden. This is not, you're not talking about this people who nicht verstanden. They understood it well, but nevertheless, but derech klal, there's a certain mahalach in Tanya. So this Reb Nochem Shkolnik starts talking to me in Tanya. So I tell him the way you could learn Tanya, where I heard it from Reb Yoel, Tanya, we understand it. And I don't know, again, he starts talking Tanya, the basic, the tzaddik, the rosh, the bein, and the yal, the basic in Yonim, the first prokim, totally different, but gewaldig. And I couldn't leave. It was so geschmack, it was so zis. And I sat there for 3 hours listening to this chassid. So why am I telling you this? About my experiences. I'm telling you this because you're young bacharim and you're developing and growing and learning Chasidism, and you're Lubavitch Yeshiva, Chasidism Yeshiva. that you base Tammuz, a day like you base Tammuz, you take a few minutes to think about what the Rebbe and the Filin the Rebbe, Chasidism gave their life. You know who first the Farbrengen, you base Tammuz. I remember coming into the 71 street 4 in the morning. I live in Borough Park. I came from Borough Park. I wanted to you base Tammuz. You want to go to a Farbrengen, Epis, you know. And who did I see there? I saw Mashpia, Rabbi Chaim Dalfin. I saw the Easter from the Lutera, Rebbe Chaim, and one other chassid. I think couldn't be a Zayder and made up. Could be it was him, or Mendel Barozov. It was 3, and they were sitting. No one else, and you know, people are speaking. And for them, Yud-Beis Tammuz was, I think for them, Yud-Beis Tammuz was the Gresta Yom Tov, more than Yud-Beis Kislev, and more than Yud-Beis Tammuz for them, because their Rebbe, at that time, they lived with him. Yeah, they left. This was their, you know, so it's a different time now, you know, but nevertheless, Yud-Beis Tammuz was a freiliche day, a celebratory day. It was a day of freilichkeit, and I remember the farbrengens, the big farbrengens. I remember seeing Shlomo Karlbach come. The Kahos used to sell at the big farbrengens the svarim in the back, not in the back where they sell today, but you know the other side, closer to Brooklyn, not closer to Kingston. And over there, Sasever Sholem used to have put out the Kahos svarim, and people would buy a safer too, whatever. When Karlbach came, he'd walk out. He used to come for about a half an hour to an hour for Farbrengen, and then he left. And he literally walked out with 2 bags full of Kahos svarim that he bought every big Farbrengen. Do you remember that or not? I remember it. Maybe you were older bucker. You were sitting inside. You know, you were closer. But I was younger bucker, so maybe I was more on the periphery. If I'm lucky, I had a place. That's another whole discussion. The places at Farbrengen, how you got a place, when you got a place, how early you have to come, when you got a punch in your face when you say it. It was a whole parsha. It's a whole parsha. The places. When I was a young buck, I was behind the Rebbe. I got older. I wanted to see the Rebbe. It's a whole arichas. You probably heard this from Chasidism. The places at Farbrengen, places by Mafti, and places by Kias. Each of these has is a sefer sholem. This is a complete chapter in a book. You know, from the what's the word from the word makfor, right? You take a word, you can make a kfor. From Sveitens, on the other hand, if you know the word well and you want to describe it, sometimes you need to have a word. You know, men sagt a word, and people don't. You have to see the whole picture. So the places by Farbrengen wasn't just you came, you didn't come, you expected to get in. You think it was so easy to get in if you came late. You think you had to push and shove, and they say, "Who are you? You didn't see me last Farbrengen? I don't remember." What do you do? And it's a big guy. And what about Simchas Torah? I saw a bacher, I don't want to sein gesund, a friend, older than me, but I'm not going to mention. I saw him push down someone from the bleachers. I confronted him years later, a few years ago. I said, why did you do that? He says, ich hab's getan, hat getan zu mir. I did it, he did it to me. You know? So there's a whole discussion about by the farbrengens, and that's why the Rebbe made a Vada Masada with the Rebbe Draskin, the first Rebbe Zalman Gerari, and then he took it away from him and gave it to Rebbe Draskin. There's a lot of history, just the benches and the chains, and who was the Vada Masada, and what did they have? The Rebbe will help him say that. Anyway, Zufel Gedash, L'chaim, L'chaim.
Ma